Welcome to the fourth, I think, Game of Realms tutorial for Kingdom Sheets 2025. Today we're looking at the trade sheet, which is probably the one with the most going on, other than the Stores and Peasants, but we all know what Stores and Peasants does. That hasn't changed all that much. This, though, is brand new. So let's get right into it. Let's first go over it once while there are no trades happening, and then we're going to go over it again with an example maybe a month later after we've sent out some trades and there's more going on. First off, let's break it down up here. So we have the kingdom that you are. You might be thinking to yourself, hey, I watched the first tutorial and he definitely had Gilder's borders. And we're going to just pretend this is some hypothetical world where Al-Cheval takes over Gilder, and we're not going to worry about that. The first bit of information here is the round trip length. So trades are no longer going on the map. They still use the map, kind of. The distance from your kingdom to another kingdom, specifically your capital to their capital, is how we figure out the round trip length. Also, if you're inland, then you might find that you might not be able to access some things via water. Likewise, if you're on a different island, somebody else, you might not be able to access them via land. Round trip length. This is the length that it takes for your trade to get there, deliver its goods, and then come back. So, for example, Black Swamp, it's going to take 8 weeks to go there by water, and that's, so I don't know if you know, but Al-Cheval actually has a river running next to it, so it's able to deploy a boat onto the river, have it go out the outside of the island, and then it spends about 4 weeks getting down to Black Swamp, and then 4 weeks to come right back. Via land, it's a little bit longer. It's a more direct route, but wagons only move, I think, 3 hexes, whereas boats move 5. That adds up. So it's going to take 10 weeks. Via airship, it's only going to take 6 weeks. You get to take the direct route, and you get to go as fast as a ship. It's great. Win-win. And then via trade route. So this is brand new. A trade route is something that you can build that links your kingdom with another kingdom. It only matters for your trades. So if they want to send stuff to you, they're going to need to build their own trade route. You can think of it less as building a big road and more planning a logistics network, waypoints, setting up guard towers, going out and scouting the map in more detail so that you guys know exactly the quickest way, the safest way from point A to point B. And this is going to give you the trade route distance for everyone, even if you don't have a trade route with that kingdom. There's also one case where this can be inaccurate, but we're going to get into that later. Then we move on to the gate. So maybe you don't have a gate. If you don't, then there won't be any information up here. But if you do, it's going to tell you the tier. It's going to tell you what its capacity is. Alright, so a tier 2 gate can have 3,000 troops go through it. Each wagon or fleet, so each trade that goes through it counts as 400. But you'll notice there's 1,600 here that's already being used, but no trades. What's up with that? Well, if you watched the last video, troop deployment, we sent 1,600 troops through the gate, and that's going to be shown up here. If you can't use the gate here, check capacity. Make sure it's not full. Make sure there's at least 400 capacity left. And that's probably where your problem's going to be. Let's go a little bit lower. So this is really easy. We got fleets, wagons, skiffs, corvettes, cargo ships, battleships. These are everything that you can use to get a trade from one place to another. Here's how many you own. Here's how many are in use. This is both used in trades, currently 0, and deployed out on the map. Remember, we had this guy scouting, and we sent this guy out with some soldiers. I'll also let you know if they're in repair dock, and waylaid. Well, that's a surprise. If this pops up waylaid, feel free to reach out to us. Let's go take a look at our trade routes. So, we're Al-Cheval. So you'd think that all our origins should be Al-Cheval. This is where the trade is coming from. And you might be able to figure out what's going on there, but we'll get to that in a moment. Let's start with the first one, Al-Cheval to Colonsey. So, Al-Cheval built the trades route to Colonsey. It doesn't require gate access, it's just going across the water. They mapped out the currents or what have you. That's that. This is now an option for any trade that goes to Colonsey to use this trade route. Now, Origin Dagger Deep. What's going on there? Well, maybe you have a trade route, and rather than coming directly from your capital, it's going to be quicker to go through a gate and then go to the kingdom you're going to. This is one of the primary uses of gates. So Dagger Deep is always accessible, so as long as you have a gate, you can select Dagger Deep as your origin, and then your destination. So this, according to this, via trade route is 6 weeks. But because we are not using El Cheval as our origin, but we're basically teleporting directly adjacent to Black Swamp and then popping over, it drops it down to 1 week, 2 week, something like that. However, it does require gate access. Now, this is less of a worry with Dagger Deep. You can't shut off access to the Dagger Deep gate, so this will always be open unless Pot starts messing around with things. El Cheval to Gilder, it's all the same thing. El Cheval can use this to get to Gilder. However, note that Gilder won't be able to use this to get to El Cheval. They'll need to build their own trade route. You can come up with the fluff for that yourself. It's a technical limitation. It'd be a headache to do otherwise. Nowhere to Krendingar. Now here's an interesting one. So this one also requires gate access, but this is from a friendly kingdom. You know, nowhere we've linked our gates with them. But if they ever shut off gate access, then this trade route will no longer be available. Can't use that. Now it doesn't go away. If they ever open up gate access again, you'll be able to use this again. You can see this is what happened with Uberland. We went through Uberland to get to Rogan. Makes sense. Uberland and Rogan are right next to each other. But now Uberland, our gates aren't linked. Maybe their gate got blown up. Maybe we got into a little bit of a spat. Maybe they just forgot about us. Maybe there's a security risk. Who knows? For whatever reason, that gate's closed. So this gate access is not, this trade route is not available. Alright. Here we have the completed trade log. This has been a request from a lot of people. You're never going to guess what it does. It shows you the, however many that is, most recent completed trades, both to and from your kingdom. If you want access to a bigger log, we can arrange that case by case. I think Connor was really keen to actually have this be its own tab, which case you'll be able to see every completed trade log, every completed trade you've ever done. We're going to see a bit more on the second part of this video, where we have an example of some down the line after some trades have happened. And here we have requests. And you know what, we're going to get back to requests in a moment. After we look at how to send out a trade. Oh! Alright, and here we see where we actually send out the trades. So, first off, you have your origin. If you're paying attention before, you can probably guess that we can either send it out from our capital, or we can send it out from any gate that we're linked with. So we're always linked to Dagger Deep, and we're currently linked with nowhere. So let's go ahead and select Dagger Deep, and we pick a destination. Go with Black Swamp. They have great swamp and swamp accessories. We want some of that. And now we can pick our route. So, as noted, Black Swamp is accessible via water, it's accessible via land, and it's also accessible by a trade route. If we take a look there, we'll see that this is much quicker than this shows. And again, that's because we're going through a gate. Alright? And then we select a vehicle. If we're using a trade route, you don't need a vehicle. It's baked into the cost of making the trade route in the first place. You're good to go. And then you just got to choose what it is you want to send. Let's ask for 1,000 trade goods. That's always a staple. And also we need to build some more roads, so let's get 500 stone. Okay. Well, maybe they need to build the roads, pardon. So we're sending them some stone. Now, it's important to note, once you're ready to launch, and at the end of the week when this goes out, that's gone. It's being sent to them. You can't take it back after. You'll get information on it as it goes. But the only way you're getting that back is if the kingdom you sent it to decides, hey, you know, maybe it'll be nice and send it back to you. That's important to note because there's a second feature that we've recently added, which is requests. So when you send this trade, you can also send a request that, hey, I would like to receive 1,000 trade goods, and I would like to receive 500 metal. That seems like a fair trade. And they will have the option to accept that request. We're going to get into that in the second half of this video. But whether they accept it or not, they're going to still get those trade goods, and they're still going to get that stone. Right? They could ignore it, they could deny it, and then it's up to you on the field to maybe hash out with them why they took your stuff and didn't give you anything back. The main thing this requesting feature gives you is the ability, you know how I said earlier that they can't use your trade route? This is a way that they can, if you send out something through a trade route, halfway through the round trip length, it's going to get there, it's going to drop off the stuff, and they can accept the request. And if they do, it's going to come back via that same route. So if you send it with an airship, it's going to come back on your airship. If you send it through a trade route, it's going to come back on the trade route speed. That means it's going to take a week to get there, it's going to take a week to get back, and you'll get this, even if the Black Swamp didn't have a trade route with you. And for example, if we go through land here, we can see that it's the exact same distance because the Black Swamp is right next to the Digger Deep portal, but we're going to get to an example where that's not the case. Right. Anyway, the point I want to make is that this is just a request. Alright, it's up to them to see whether they want to accept or not, but it can speed things up. And it can be a nice little nudge to remind them that, hey, we talked about something on the field, here's the request, let's make it happen. But again, once you send out those goods, they are gone. Gone. Alright? Let's take a look at some other examples real quick. Let's have a more conventional route that doesn't require any gate fuckery. So we got El Cheval going to Colonsy. So you see that this does not have land as an option, because you cannot walk on land from El Cheval to Colonsy. You can use the handy-dandy trade route, though, which you can, no vehicle needed, 6 weeks, that's a phenomenal turnaround time. And we can ask for, rather we can send wood, we can send 500 wood, and then we can request an airship part back. Right? If we wanted to do this without using a trade route, just over water, see that's 9 weeks instead. Okay, that means it's going to take 4.5 weeks to get there, which will drop it off, and then if they have accepted by then it'll take 4.5 weeks to come back and give us our airship part from them. Alright? So it's going to take a fleet. Once we get ready to launch, at the end of the week, this will launch out. Now, it is possible, now this should prevent you from getting too crazy about sending stuff you don't have. See here where it doesn't stop you from doing it, but it says, hey, you don't have that much wood. Alright? We'll highlight this to say there's an error, but it won't stop you. The thing that's going to stop you is the Game Realms officer at the end of the week, who then goes into here and says, hey, fuck nuts. Alright? And you're going to see this pop up, and this is going to be unchecked, and it'll be up to you to resolve that, and then try to send it again next week. Alright? I think that's about everything for this. Let's go ahead and skip forward to a world where we've got some trades in progress, and this half of the screen is more filled up. Welcome back from our brief intermission, which was basically instant for you, I guess. And we can see that there's been some activity. We now have in-transit trades, some requests, and some completed stuff in the log. So let's go over it step by step. So let's first look at the completed trade log, and that's exactly all intended. These are trades that have fully resolved. They've got to us, and then they got back to the destination. We can see that this was sent by Gilder and received by us. Likewise, this was sent by Colonsy and received by us. This will also show completed outgoing trades, so trades that we sent out that have come back to us. We just didn't have any in the example here. We'll show you the data completed, and we'll show you what was in there. So we have the split both into the delivered, so delivered wood, peasants, whatnot, delivered MP. I see I've copied this over, so ignore this, the fact that it's delivered. They keep requesting fealty. You see that it's split into what was delivered and what was requested. Also, if we go down here, we can see, speaking of requested, pending requests. So these will be highlighted in red here, and also in your stores and peasant scene. Ignore all the other ones, but there'll be an alert here to let you know that, hey, there's some pending requests that you need to look at. These are time sensitive. If you ignore them, if you don't get to them by the date of their arrival or shortly thereafter, they'll just count as ignored, which means the request will not be accepted. You'll have an angry kingdom wondering what the hell is going on. This is also a good reason to not send requests without talking to the other kingdom first to make sure that they have an eye on the sheets, right? A lot of folks just log in once a month to do their thing. If they're not looking for incoming trades to accept the request of, they might not never even realize the request was there. So, talk to people on the field. This is not a replacement for talking for people on the field. it is an aid. So we can see that Gilder is requesting fealty, and we can either opt to approve or deny their request. We can also see here that Collins is requesting MP and airship parts, but there's a little pop-up here. We can't afford it. So we can go ahead and hit approve, but this is going to be a flag for the game's relevance officer before he clicks the button that makes everything happen to go, actually no, this is going to end up being denied. And it's up to you to explain to them why it didn't go through. Alright? The reason being, you broke. If we go over to stores and peasants, we're just going to quickly use a little bit of magic here. We'll go from -3 airship parts to 1 airship part, which when we pop back trades, we'll see is now enough that we can accept this. We could accept it before, but... So we go ahead and approve, and then when that gets to us, these will be deducted from our inventory and sent out. Keep in mind, this only checks your current inventory. So if it's asking for an airship part, and then before this arrives, which is sometime in the distant past, but we're not going to worry about that. And in the meantime, we use up those airship parts, or we sell them, or we trade them away, then this might all of a sudden be unaffordable again. So remember that. Just because you'd approve doesn't mean it's good to go. These are only deducted from your inventory when the trade arrives. Alright, and last time we were here, this was a big white screen. Now it's got all sorts of stuff in it. These are trades from you, or to you, that are in transit. And we get a lot more information here. We can see who was sent by, sent the origin, the destination, the route they took, the vehicle they used, when they'll arrive, and when they'll return. We'll see the resources, the wood, this is all the stuff they're sending. This is, just for so you're aware, the same as this trade here. These are identical. And you can see that because it's request pending, and the sheet doesn't like fealty as an option, it turns out, for other. But, you don't have to worry about that. So this was sent by Oshaval, and it is destination is Colonsy. It's using an airship to get there. Now it's request pending, but the pending isn't showing up because we're requesting stuff from Colonsy. This only shows other kingdoms requesting stuff from us. Alright. It's also in the way distant future, but again, we're not going to worry about that. This is all just debugging and testing. We see some other ones. Here's one sent by El Cheval with a destination of nowhere, going over the water. That seems reasonable. We're just sending stuff on this one. No request on that. We have a whole bunch more sent by us. We've been super busy. Now we have one here sent by Varlin to us with just a pile of food. No requests. Lovely guys. So yeah, this is, again, just a quick recap. This is how fast it takes to get places. This is the information about you ate. This is the information about your vehicles. This is the information about your trade routes. This is where you send new trades. This is where you see information on existing trades that are still in progress. Here's where you see where all the trades that have already been completed, done and gone, and locked in are. And this is where you can both see and react to requests from other kingdoms who are requesting shit from you. Yeah, so that's definitely by far the most complicated of the tabs. But again, a little bit of fiddling around with this, and you should be good to go. As long as nothing red pops up, it should be alright. And if there's any hiccups, then the Gamer Realms team will take care of it. Overall, this is going to give you a lot more control. It's going to give you a lot more information. I hope you guys have fun with it.